Namaste, Claudia. At last we are speaking with each other. How you doing?
Hey, Andrew. It's nice to hear your voice.
Well, wow, how about that? I seem to recall this happening. This is deja vu. I'm looking at the clock right now, and it says 9:11 p.m. I remember calling into your show one time, and I
Hmm.
called in at 9:11, and I told you that that was the second most common time I see on the clock after 11:11 when I look at it. Now it's
That's
happening
so
all over
funny.
again.
Well,
Yes, I think it's an omen for good things to come, and 9/11 does
I
not
hope
have to
so.
be inauspicious. It can be a good number. Everything is good. It just has been twisted in unpleasant ways. So, yeah, it's great to be
You
talking to you. Don't really need to spend
too.
too much time, but hey, I do have the thing where you said you would try to get a sitter to watch your kids to be able to talk to me, but I don't want you to have to spend money for that. So, it's good that you were able
Thank,
to get the kids to bed and all. So, I guess
thank you.
about the eclipse.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, you had better luck than I did. The sun was partially covered by the moon, and then the clouds came over. And I
Oh,
stayed in
that's
my
too bad.
hotel. Well, it's not really
Hmm.
a problem for me because I got one small consolation prize, being able to see my adorable 10-month-old nephew the day after that. He was a cute
Oh,
little sight to behold. I tickled his face and I told him I'd rather see your adorable face over an eclipse any day, and he smiled at me like Jesus smiling at
oh.
the three wise men, and or the drummer boy, whoever it was, and yeah, and then of course there's the big enchilada eclipse that's coming on April 8th, 2024, which is the same day as my youngest brother's 30th birthday, incidentally, and I know exactly where I'm going for that one. I'll be at the crisscross path of that eclipse and this one that we just had, which is somewhere in southern Illinois, and Rex Bear of Leak Project did a video about that, talking about how this town in Illinois where both eclipses are going to be visible, the crisscross point, X marks the spot point, has some sort of a name dealing with like a star, like Star of Israel or something. Is very, very interesting.
Whoa.
So I would have to think that my guardian angels and spirit guides, and well, the source in general, is going to make sure that the clouds do not cover that one, because I have to think that's the reason they decided not to let me see this one, because I'm not destined to. I'm destined to see that one because everything that I'm fighting for as part of this mission on Earth that I'm on will only make sense to see that one at the end of the Pluto and Capricorn cycle in 2024 approximately. So, okay, well, I've
Interesting.
babbled long enough, so it's great to be talking to you. We could go till 11:11, a full 2 hours if you want, because we started at 9:11. But if you do want to end it,
Sure.
sir, that okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
very good at ad-libbing. We can talk about a lot of things, and interesting how when I was talking with Michelle Walling, I talked, I said to her how it would be cool to have both, well, her, Greg, and you, all three come on my show, and that would officially clean up the whole in 5D in 5D gang, basically. And she said, she said it's funny you mentioned that because I actually checked, got a message from Claudia or something saying that someone close to you passed away. Is that true that someone close to you? I'm not talking about Helene Lifson, may her soul rest in peace.
Hmm.
Someone else that you
Yeah.
know that that passed
Well,
away. Yeah.
my mother passed recently. My mom died about a month, 2 months ago.
I think that was on the same
So
day that I interviewed Michelle and brought you up. So
probably.
yeah. So of
Oh,
course,
that's nice
because
of her to mention that. It's nice. I love Michelle.
right,
Sweetheart.
he is a sweetheart. Hey, I don't think I'm gonna
Yeah.
actually when I upload this to YouTube, I don't think I'm actually gonna um, get rid of all this stuff that we just started talking about for the past 4 minutes, and so it may actually enlighten a few people. All these things I just said about the eclipse
Sure.
and things happening. So so I don't see any
Sounds
point in
great.
missing it. So it's great to be speaking to you. I'll be using your wholeearthhealing.com website as a little bit of a guide here, and I got a
Excellent.
whole slew of things to talk about. So I guess
Cool.
first and foremost, even though you've probably done this numerous times on your show, which you used to do on in 5D radio when it was on Blog Talk,
Hmm.
I guess it just because we need to fill up a full 2 hours here. give you the chance to tell your life story, what you do, what happened to you from an experience standpoint that got you to doing the hypnosis, Reiki, and all the other things that you work on. What did you experience? Please try to keep it educational, but at the same time, keep it fun. So you got the floor, your life story, what you experienced, you got the floor, and your contact info too, if you want to give that out.
Oh boy, that's a lot to cover. So first, I just want to say thank you so much, Andrew Fisher, for inviting me on your show, and I feel honored to be mentioned along with Greg Prescott and Michelle Walling of In5D. And it's I remember meeting you quite a while back now at Return to Atlantis conference of In5D that Greg Prescott and Helene Lipson, our dear departed Helene Lipson, had put on. And, I helped her out a lot for that. It was great to be part of that crew, and it was great to meet you then. And it's so nice to be talking to you now. It's like 7 years later, I think. So, but in terms of my contact information, wholeearthhealing.com is my website. Even though I'm known as Claudia Helmke Miller, I'm on the radio, I'm CJ Miller. And even though I'm not doing In5D radio anymore, I do have my own radio channel, which we have sort of not been doing a ton of shows, but it's called Green Heart Radio. And that's actually still on Blog Talk Radio for now. We're probably going to move into the Zoom, Zoom video conferencing soon. And I have a couple of great people on my channel. There's Jennifer of the Cosmic Jungle, Jennifer Galligan, and Missy Hill of the Missy Hill Show, who you probably know, Andrew. You might know a couple of us. So that's where I'm at now. But in terms of my life story, that's quite a long story, so I'll just try to keep it to the metaphysical side and the spiritual aspects. And I don't know, there's a lot to say. My background is as a therapist, and I used to live in San Francisco in the Bay Area, and I got my master's in clinical psychology. And I worked with a lot of children and families, and that was a big interest of mine. I actually did a lot of drug and alcohol counseling, which was pretty useless, actually. It was quite ironic because I'd be working with kids who were potheads and trying to help them, quote unquote, get off of drugs, which of course they didn't want to stop smoking pot in high school. So it really was only a palliative effect, and that's what I found was the issue with a lot of therapy in general, was that it didn't really clear things up for people. I ended up leaving my work as a therapist. I even had a lot of clients that I worked with individually in a private practice setting. I was a marriage and family therapist in California. Actually didn't get my license, but I was working as under a supervisor. And I had great clients that worked with me for 4 years, and they would have stayed with me for another 10. And I had to leave, and I left my practice because I got cancer. And that was 21 years ago today, almost, that I got the cancer. I had thyroid cancer, and that was a big turning point for me in my life. And I was a pretty spiritual person at that point. I was meditating. I was doing a lot of healing work with people. I was in the San Francisco Bay Area, which is very open-minded, so I was open to all these things. I was reading Seth books and doing past life regression stuff, so it was very natural for me to reach out to alternative healers, which is what I did. So I had thyroid cancer. I had to have my thyroid taken out, which I wish I didn't have to do, but I did that at the time. And then I also did alternative healing, a lot of homeopathy. People did a lot of prayer for me. I did tons of visualization and self-clearing, and dietary changes, and in the process, I just became so interested in the alternative healing path, much more so than therapy. And shortly thereafter, 3 years later, I decided to leave my practice as a therapist and move to Europe. This was after taking a short traveling sojourn over there for about 3 months by myself. I went to Italy and all over Europe. And I just had the most incredible time meeting people of diverse cultures. And, I was traveling alone, backpacking, staying in hostels. I was 35 at the time. And, free and clear of cancer at that point and quite healthy. It was so liberating to go and leave my entire life and move to Italy. After traveling, I came back to San Francisco. I left my relationship, my fiancé, and it was an amazing turn of life, and I'm so glad that I did that, because even though I left California, which I really loved, and a lot of good friends, I had to answer the call of my spirit, and my spirit was telling me to travel and to just not to know exactly what I was going to do, but just to take a leap and go. And, okay, you like Italy? Then go there. Then move there. So I was like, all right, I guess I'm going to move to Italy. So I moved there, and I lived there for 3 years, and it was one of the coolest times of my life. It's kind of funny because now here I am 12 years later considering moving back to Italy for a period of time with my daughter, who's 7.5 years old, and possibly with my father, who's 88, who's soon to be 88 years old. So, it's interesting how life cycles around and comes back to beginning. And I guess I'm just going to keep going here because I think that you have just let me have the floor to tell you my life story. So,
by all means.
Okay. So, my time traveling, and this I would recommend traveling to anyone if you can break away from the matrix and you have the means to do so. Highly recommend going to another country. Or even just in this country, just getting out and traveling. And I've done a lot of that. I've traveled cross country 5 times and traveled extensively in Europe. Some people have traveled so much more than me, and I applaud them. And I have good friends that travel every year to Asia and all over, and obscure regions and South America, and there's so many places I still want to go. But for some reason, Italy spoke to me, and I speak pretty fluent Italian now. I was going to open a retreat center there. It was my dream to have a retreat center, which has been my dream for about 20 years now, healing center. And I wanted to do that while I was there. And I had met a young man, 10 years my junior, and we were to be married, and we were going to open a retreat center together. But, lo and behold, I think that I did something that was not on my path, which was to change my plans for this person, for this man. And I didn't listen to my heart, and I went to live in a place that wasn't for me. And that ended up changing the nature of who I was, of my spirit. I wasn't listening to the call within. And I didn't do what I was supposed to do. So that ended up, I crashed and burned. Things didn't work out. I ended up leaving Italy and coming back to New York. Didn't go to California, moved to New York City. I was 38 at this time, and my dad had a place in New York City, and I just said, I'm going to move there. And that was quite a ride to be in a place like New York City. There's a lot of drinking there and a lot of noise, and complete opposite of this little town of Orvieto in Italy where I lived, where I had really enjoyed being part of a small town and getting to know people intimately and just having a slower pace of life, And then I moved to New York City and Manhattan, and it was quite a culture shock. And wouldn't you know it, my first partner, my first boyfriend, is a guy from Holland. So I can't even meet an American. I meet a Dutch guy, and Pablo van Dyck, who's an art dealer. And so that was the beginning of my life in New York City. Many friends later, I had a wonderful time. I became a real estate agent, and around the same time, I started getting into Reiki. And so here we are with Reiki. So I'm not practicing therapy. I've been working in the hotel industry and traveling and enjoying my life. And because of my friend Helene Lipson, who is a wonderful psychic astrologer, that she's no longer with us in the physical, but you might know of her from the Helene Lipson show. She's done a lot of great things. She's my best friend of 31 years when she passed, which was just this last October. But anyway, Lainey, who was my best friend and had moved back to New York City at the time, we were so happy to live near each other that she had a big influence on me. We were talking every day, and she just said, you're a really good healer. You have great hands. You have so much energy coming out of your hands. Why don't you try Reiki? So, I never really thought about it. I said, okay, I do love hands-on healing. I'll do Reiki. And so I chose a great place to study, the Open Center of New York, and had a wonderful teacher, and became an advanced Reiki practitioner. Got a lot of great training. Excuse me, hold on. And that was just tremendous. I learned so much about healing, and everybody that I worked with said how amazing it felt when I did healings on them, and it was really interesting because I was used to being a speaker, listening to people and talking, and here I was just following my intuition and working with my insight and with my hands, and following a protocol, which I have since kind of gotten my own protocol that I work with healing. But there's so many great things to learn, and I'm learning new stuff all the time. And the human body and our psyche is so fascinating. And I certainly believe that, water holds memory, and our cells hold water, and we are about 80% water. So we have to be very careful how we speak to ourselves. And, a lot of it we can't even control. It's all with the subconscious mind. And our memories and our cellular memories are in our body, and we can't escape ourselves. And often, this is why I don't like traditional psychotherapy. It ignores a lot of the psychic aspects and the body aspects and how trauma is lodged in the physical body. So I think that it is integral to work with our bodies energetically and physically. And I actually love to do a combination of Reiki and massage with people because we are physical beings, and I think sometimes we as people really benefit from having physical touch and deep manual stimulation of knots and blockages. So I haven't been doing that a lot lately, but when I can, I love to do that, and I mostly practice massage with my close friends and family. But I used to do it as a practice with clients, and I really enjoyed it. The hypnosis that I've done, I did about the same time in New York City, and that was a great experience too. And since then, it has grown considerably. My interest in hypnosis is more about visualization, guided visualization, and working on an individual level with people and kind of, fine-tuning things to what their interests are. So that's why, I guess we could talk more about that if you had asked me some questions, but right now I don't practice a lot of hypnosis, but I do love working with it, and I love working with the voice, and I think that I would love to start putting together some guided visualizations, some recordings, and putting them out on YouTube for people to benefit from. because I do love speaking, and I think I have a good voice. And, I love doing radio shows. And then, so that'll lead me to closer present time. So, trying to think when I started doing radio. It wasn't until after I had my daughter. So at the age of 42, I had my little girl and my little Sophie, and she is the thing that made me feel more confident in myself. The ability to bring life here onto the earth and to give birth is an incredible thing, and to have a baby and raise her, you never realize how strong you are until you try something that you never thought you would do. And for me, having a baby is something I never thought I would do. I actually was fine with not having children, and that's why I waited so long. I mean, it was not a planned thing. It did happen with somebody that I loved, who's now my ex-husband. But he gave me a great gift in giving me Sophie and helping me to have Sophie. Like I said, it didn't happen we did not plan it, so it was a beautiful miracle baby. But this baby, this little being, came and changed my life. And luckily, I had my friend Lainey close to me, and she and we talked on the phone every night. I used to be up in the middle of the night. That was when I did my best thinking. I would put my kid to sleep, and then I'd wake up at midnight and be up from midnight to 4. And that's when Lainey and I would get on the phone, and we would do our rituals and our visualizations, and we'd light candles, and we'd invite in the angels and the masters, and we would work together. And we just loved having that time. And it was during that time she started to do radio shows and said, I'm going to have my own show, and you're going to be my first guest. So I was her first guest way back in 2011, early 2011, maybe late 2010. And then we just didn't look back. We started doing a show together called Cosmic Current. And that is, you can look it up on YouTube. There's a lot of Cosmic Currents still there. And I have a new Cosmic Current that I have done a few of with Jennifer Galligan, Jennifer of the Cosmic Jungle, on Green Heart Radio. And that show I just loved doing it. It was just about wanting to share with people what we found was helpful. Lainey and I listened to so many, like you, Andrew, and like a lot of people that are listening to this show. We spent a lot of time listening to stuff on YouTube and sharing with each other all the cool stuff that we found. And at the time, in the beginning, we were listening to a ton of David Icke and David Wilcock, and we were listening to, I don't think we were into Magenta Pixie then, who I really like now, but we were listening to Abraham Hicks and so many cool people, Anelia Benz, Franco Di Nicola, as you know, and there's so many people that we listened to, and we wanted to share that, and we did share it with people, and as we shared and did more and more shows, we got to have more and more fans and more people that were connecting with us, and it was just great. And all along the way, Helene was encouraging me to do my own thing, and my first shows were it was called Whole Earth Healing Radio, and I did a lot of shows with Franco Di Nicola, a few shows with Whole Earth Healing. I also did a show with Neil Kramer, and I did it on Skype, just like you do your shows now, Andrew, and I really enjoyed it, and then I'd upload them onto YouTube, and it was great, and I just had a wonderful time doing it, and I felt like I was really listening to my heart and doing what I was supposed to be doing, and not thinking about the money, and not thinking about what people thought of me, or how they were going to accept me or not. I just did it because I wanted to share, and I wanted to share my truth, and it was one of the best decisions I've ever made. So, I'm sure you feel similarly about how you got in the radio and what you're doing now, and it's a big part of how I feel I'm supposed to help the earth and help humanity. So I'm just so grateful for this kind of platform and being able to be a speaker, and radio has allowed me to become more confident and, not feel like concerned about people seeing me physically. I'm not a bad-looking person, but I think we all get to be, women especially, we can be nervous about our physicality, and I just like how radio, I can just be myself and just put it out there. And I've always loved radio, even from back in the days when it was more about listening to music. I just really enjoy listening to people speaking and being themselves. And I have to say, one of my first inspirations in radio was Howard Stern, believe it or not. Howard Stern and Dr. Ruth Westheimer. Those were people that I used to listen to on the radio as a child, and I would sneak listening to both of them. And I just really liked it that they were doing something. Well, Dr. Ruth Westheimer was doing the sexual talk, and I just liked that she was putting it out there and not caring what people thought of her and really wanting to help people. And you could probably say the same for Howard Stern. Some people still love him. I don't listen to him anymore, but I do like the fact that he tells it like it is, and he's not afraid to tell the truth. And he has helped a lot of people. There's a lot of people that align with him. So, this is what I'd say to anybody listening to this show is, whatever it is that you're interested in, that's what we're all supposed to be doing. I mean, yes, you might have to have your matrix job, your 9-to-5 job, and maybe it's not time to leave that. But, the free time that we do have, I think it is so important. Instead of watching television, and we all watch Netflix and Amazon Video sometimes, Hulu, whatever it is that you ascribe to, I can certainly say that I've wasted enough hours watching shows. But there's something about that creative voice and connecting with people in a creative way. When you do shows, when you're doing a live show, you have people calling in. It is a very dynamic kind of thing, which I grew to love, even though I did shows just like this at first, where I wasn't having anybody talk to me or listening to the shows, and I would put it up, and that was a great experience in and of itself. And I love both of those platforms, but there's something really nice about live shows and being able to have people call in and through their questioning and through their comments going to change the whole shape of the show. So needless to say, I fell in love with radio and fell in love with the whole interplay of being able to be part of a community and help build community. And that was one of the major things that Helene and I talked about doing, and I continue to want and to promote, is building 5D community. So that was the greatest thing about being part of In 5D. So let's rewind. So we were doing a lot of shows, and Helene connected with Greg Prescott. I think it was through Facebook or through his videos. She reached out to him and said how much she liked his videos. And they were both living in Florida at the time, and they became fast friends. And then they started deciding to put on conferences together. And, he already had In5D and in5d.com, and it was quite successful. He was not with Michelle at the time. He was a single guy, and so him and Helene came together as business partners and started putting on the conference, Return to Atlantis, where Andrew Bartos was a speaker, and Chris Hales was there, and Hope Girl, and there was definitely a lot of cool speakers. Tom Lesher, one of my favorites, Kepacha, and Teal Scott, now Teal Swan. Maybe, I'm not sure if she's still Teal Swan, but she was there as well. And just so many interesting, cool people, and you were one of them. And Michelle Walling ended up coming to that event as well. And I'd say that Missy Hill, too. And a lot of my good friends came to that event, and it was just wonderful. And the best part of it was meeting all of the people that had listened to our shows, and meeting people that were like-minded and like-hearted. And that, it was so feeding, that just fed my soul so much to be part of that whole event, and to help Lainey plan it and help Greg, and then be like kind of staff there and putting things on and being with the backstage people. And oh gosh, I'm almost forgetting. And the other main people that were at that event, who are my friends now, are Laura Eisenhower, Dr. Dream, and also Lisa Renee, and her partner Tomas was working there. And it was great, and we all became just great friends. I had the best time with them, and it really was like the fruition of so many of my desires of bringing people together and making change. And so, that was a big part of the culmination of all of the healing work, I think, was bringing people together and showcasing great speakers and people who are out there making a difference. We also co-created an event with Greg that was in Los Angeles called City of Angels. Gosh, I forget the whole name of that event, but I believe that you might have come to that one as well.
I was there, City of Angels. Yeah, with George Norrie. Yeah, I remember that.
Yes, with George Norrie, and so that was cool. And Michelle was there, so Michelle and Greg were together then. And then it was me and Helene, and Greg and Michelle. It was kind of like two power couples in a way, were running it, and it was just so great. And Barbara Lamb was there, and Nora Harold, and Bashar, and that was so much fun. And you were there, and a lot of cool people came, and I did video interviews with people there, and it was great to do an interview with George Norrie and meet him, because he was certainly an inspiration of mine back in the early days of listening to shows. And, George Norrie, of course, is the famous host of, was Coast to Coast. It used to be Coast to Coast. I'm not sure what it's called now. But, gosh, he was awesome. What a great voice and great presence he has. So, I'm just so lucky. I haven't done a lot of, I kind of took a break from doing a ton of shows when my friend Lainey, my dear friend Helene, fell ill with cancer. And she was sick for about 2 years. And she was such a big part of my life and such a big friend. I mean, we were talking pretty much every day. If we weren't talking, we were texting, and we were doing things together, and she was a big part of my creative process. And I probably became too dependent on her, because her getting sick really set me for a loop, and I had to step back from doing shows. I was still within 5D at the time, but I wasn't doing my shows nearly as much. Maybe I did like 5 in a year. And then they closed down, they stopped doing. Greg and Michelle and Candace was the other person who was on in 5D. I forget what her last name is, but...
Goldman? Is that right?
Yes, exactly. And so they were all looking into other platforms, and before I knew it, everybody stopped. It was just, they were done with Blog Talk Radio and problems with Blog Talk, and it's not a cheap format either if you're getting the 3-hour format. So, but I'm so thankful to Greg and Michelle for having hosted me on In5D Radio for a couple of years. I mean, it was a great ride. And through their channel, I got to have so many more people listening to my shows. And it really was an interesting format. And Helene and I had so many great times with Michelle and with Greg and doing shows together. And gosh, In5D Radio was awesome. And In5D events, we had so much fun together. And I know they're still doing a lot of events now, Greg and Michelle, and I have not been as connected with them. I think if Helene had stayed on the East Coast, we probably would have been doing more things together. But before Helene passed, she moved all the way to Hawaii, to Kauai, and she was so far away. I had to travel for almost 24 hours each way to visit her, which I did about 3 times while she was getting sicker and sicker. So a lot of the things that we were doing, a lot of events stopped happening because she was too sick. But she wasn't admitting that she was sick. It was a very sad time. Now her spirit is free, and I know she's doing great work on the other side, and I have a big connection with her still in the non-physical. I wish that I could have an even bigger connection with her. But I have to live my life here in the now, and I have to keep going, and I miss her every day, though. And I want to keep doing the work in big part for her, for Helene, and to carry on her legacy. And I told Helene before she died that I was going to write a book about her. And I was going to write a book about her and me and our experiences, and carry on the work that she had started doing before she fell sick. And she was so happy about that. And I still am going to do that. And I think that in the spring I might be moving to Italy, perhaps with my daughter, and maybe her grandfather, my dad, might even join us. We might stay in Italy and then travel a bit, and help my daughter learn the language and get into writing, and that might be the place where I get a lot of my writing done. So who knows? We'll see. But I'm really wanting to get more into transformational writing and creating, and being more of a speaker, and getting back into doing more of my shows. These last 2 years, actually 3 years, I've been in a great new relationship with my beloved James, he's been on several of my shows. So if anybody's heard my shows, you might have heard James. He's an architect. He's a great partner of mine. And he has been a support for me through very difficult times. So my mom just died recently. My dad's been going through hard times. And before that, it was my best friend, Helene. And so when you go through times of such stress, and being a healer myself, it's been an interesting time. I just kind of cut myself off from a lot of people and became sort of like a hermit. And I think that was challenging, and part of it was probably from my relationship. That's partially why I pulled back from doing shows. But now we've been together for 3 years, and it's time for me. This past year, when my friend Helene died, I said, it's time for me to get back to doing radio shows. So that's when I started my own channel in November. I think it was November 4th. I did my first show for Green Heart Radio with the C.J. Miller Show. It was a memorial show for Helene Lipson. And that was a great show. So many people called in. I had about 150 listeners. I was really surprised. It was a memorial. It was the first worldwide memorial for Helene, and we did another one a week or two later. And just so that the last of the people could call in and be able to share their memories of Helene. And it was beautiful, and I should put those on YouTube, but they are available on Green Heart Radio. You can find us if you go on Blog Talk Radio, or even if you look me up on Google and you put in Helene Lipson, C.J. Miller Memorial Show. You'll find it. It was a really great show. Both of them were great shows. So many great stories about a woman who just made so many differences in people's lives. So genuine, so caring, and such a great psychic and astrologer and counselor, because she was trained in psychology and social work as well. But such a cool person, too, just so funny. Oh, my God, we had the best times. And everybody felt like they were her friend. Even if they just met her, they felt like her friend. So Gosh, I'm going on and on about Helene. You could see I was in love with Helene. She was,
Well,
you
she
know,
fell in love with
a
me.
large.
She just flat
She
out
did.
acknowledged that at the Return to Atlantis conference, and I felt so stupid because I did not know that she was dead until the conference that Greg had, the one-day conference in the Sarasota Airport Hotel area, and
Oh.
she'd only been dead for like 3 weeks, and I felt so stupid because like a week before then, I made reference to Helene on my show as if she'd still been alive, and I'm
Oh.
like, man, well, what's wrong with me? How could I not know about this? Well, apparently the Facebook message never popped up for whatever the reason saying anything about it. I would have thought something did, but it didn't, so it hit me pretty hard, and I know
Hmm.
she's in a better place and all, and yeah, she did have a big influence on me. Although one of her, I know, I'm sure a lot of people that love Helene might pick on me for saying this, but I couldn't help but notice that Helene, one of her biggest flaws seemed to be she was a little bit too love based, if you know what I mean. It's okay to be love based and all, but for her to like insist that you never talk about anything bad whatsoever is kind of, dare I say it, borderline new age. And maybe I'm off my hinges when I say this, but perhaps if Helene had learned to a little self-discipline, to be able to hear and all this stuff that makes a lot of people in the spiritual community uncomfortable, all that David Icke, Alex Jones stuff that like
Hmm.
eventually many of us move past. But I mean, you'd think that it wouldn't make her uncomfortable to hear that because it played a big role in her awakening, and yours too, and mine too. And well,
Sure.
unfortunately, for whatever the reason, even though it played a big role in our awakening, once we move past that, many of us don't want to hear about it anymore, and it makes us uncomfortable. Which is ironic. You'd think it would make us uncomfortable because because it played a big role in our awakening. But for whatever the reason,
Hmm.
it does. And maybe I'm off my hinges, but had Helene maybe learned a little bit of self-discipline to be able to
Hmm.
listen to that stuff without getting all uncomfortable and everything, she might have had the strength and the power and all to get through her illness and survive. I know maybe some people are saying you don't know what you're talking about. That has nothing to do with why she
Well,
died. But um, what do you think?
um, I'm sorry that I'm laughing because um, I'm just imagining Lainey with me right now, kind of just like chuckling a little bit, and because really, Andrew, to think that it was her, you know, I don't know. I mean, I have my own personal thoughts about my dear friend and why she died. And um I don't know. I don't even like to talk about I don't want to listen to Alex Jones right now or talk about that or really get into David Icke, and I'm not dying. So I don't think that it makes it so that I would be like exposed to negative energies or, you know, I don't even believe in like watching the news or talking about the, President Trump a whole lot, or I don't really care. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm still of the same ilk that Helene was of, and that like it's a little different from yours. I am more love based because I find that that's what makes me feel better. And Helene was certainly of the same. Now saying that maybe Helene wasn't talking about her dying, that's true. She was not talking about the fact that she was dying, and I think that was too bad because she could have had really deep conversations about life and about death before she died, and she didn't because she refused to say that she was dying.
Well, she also refused
Um,
to stop taking medication, is what Greg Prescott told me in my interview with him, and that may have played a role in it as well. So,
no, what do you mean? What I didn't hear your interview, so
oh, okay, well,
what do you mean?
something about Helene kept taking medication when someone advised her not to, and that was kind of what was the demise, if you know what I mean.
Mm, I don't think Greg really knows.
Hmm.
the story of Helene as much as I would. I mean, I'm not to say, but like I was pretty closely aligned with her story and connected. It was our friend who was taking care of her, and she was with hospice at the end. But I mean, I think that so she had lung cancer, and she was not. I felt she had cancer for a while, and she was not realizing it. She thought it was a problem with her lungs because she was living in Kauai. But she had been coughing for a long time. And she had been smoking. She was a smoker. And not to say that cigarette smoke causes cancer, but it can. So I think she had lung cancer for a year before she was diagnosed with it. And I think that was the big part of the problem. But I don't know that many people that get lung cancer and survive. I actually don't know anybody who's gotten lung cancer and survived. And if you do survive, it's because you catch it very early. And she was sick for so long and didn't catch it, and I can't believe it. She was going to doctors in Hawaii, and they were not catching the cancer. So she came to visit in Long Island, and her parents took her to the doctor, and they said it's stage 4 lung cancer. And that was a shock. She called me. She's like, Claude, stage 4, and I'd just come to visit her, and we were meeting up in Long Island. And so thank God she found out she had that, and then I was with her. But she was so open at that time. When she found out she had cancer, she was like funny and loving, but she also was falling in love with somebody at the time. She was very happy, and she felt like it was going to be just fine. And she went back to Hawaii, and her relationship broke up with this guy and just didn't work out. And then she kind of fell into a depression. And I think that the depression and losing that, what she thought was like this love of her life, I think that really knocked her down. And she was so far away from me, it was hard. She was all the way in Hawaii, and I was in upstate New York, and she had good friends there in Hawaii, but she couldn't breathe very well, and it was very hard on her, and she felt afraid and anxious, like she was going to die all the time. So she decided to go take chemo, and I think that was the mistake. Like if that's what Greg was saying, maybe. That was the medication. So she did chemo and radiation, and it was actually against the our friend Franco Di Nicola had done a lot of readings for her and work with her, and said that she shouldn't do the chemo. Whatever you do, don't do chemo. Work with your pH levels, do baking soda therapy, do vegan lifestyle, work with this, whatever she had to work with. And she tried. She really tried, but she couldn't breathe. And so she felt that she had to do chemo to stay, that she could breathe. And she got worse after doing the chemo and the radiation. And, it was just a really hard road for a long time.
Yeah, I could do a whole show about how chemotherapy is a lie and there's better ways to do cancer.
Yeah.
But
I felt horrible the whole time she was doing it, and I never agreed with her, but what are you going to do when somebody says, I feel like this is what I have to do? Oh, well, okay. You can't make a decision for somebody. And even though she knew all this stuff, and she was doing Rick Simpson oil, just the marijuana oil, you have to make it a certain way, a hemp oil, special kind, which is supposed to cure people. But it made her so messed up. Like she was so stoned, like extremely stoned from taking that. And we both we've had it's no big deal to smoke pot for us. So she was just like it was too much for her. Like it was to the point of being almost comatose. So I think it's really hard. It's really hard to find the right thing and anxiety and fear can keep you from making the right decisions. And being sick, and and when you can't breathe, Andrew, and watching her, when you can't breathe, it just brings up so much fear. And I think really in the end, and her soul was ready to go, and she knew that too. I mean, that's what Franco had told her. He told her that her soul was ready to go, and almost a year before she died, and said that her soul was going to leave before the new year. And she didn't want to hear that, of course. Who wants to hear that their soul wants to leave their body and that they're going to die? And she refused. She said, I don't want to go. I'm not going. And I don't know what happened, but people might think I'm crazy, but they talked about having a walk-in for her. And she said, okay, I'll take a walk-in. So I think that she had a walk-in for about 8 months. And that's who she was for the end of her days. A very good soul that wanted to do the right thing and help her with the end of her life, which was beautiful because she healed her relationship with her parents and made sure everything was good with her kids and with her friend. She really did the best end of life that she could and made a good situation for herself. But she was quite different. I haven't really been able to talk to anybody about that, because how do you say that your best friend is left? Because they're still there. But
yeah, I know how it feels, and it's interesting how reality is, how you react to people's death in completely different ways. I mean, my back in early May, my paternal grandmother passed away at the ripe old age of 99. I didn't mourn her
wow.
death. My father didn't mourn her death. Nobody mourned her death because, I mean, she was 99. It was one of those any day now
Yeah.
kind of things. I mean, the reason she lived so long, all of her relatives died of natural causes, like in their 70s and all that. She lived so long, and this is me talking. This is Ted Marr talking when he channeled my paternal grandfather, who died in the year 2000. My paternal grandfather said her DNA was not tampered with by the Anunnaki and the reptilians when they enslaved humanity. They shortened our lifespan. Her DNA did not suffer from that to the great extent, so she was able to live much longer. But in doing so, she lost so many, like a lot of hearing, her vision. She was legally blind, like falling apart at every turn. She got what she was probably the best thing for her. And it's interesting how when my Ted Moore was channeling my paternal grandfather. This was about 2 years before she passed away. My paternal grandfather said she's got a good like 5 years left. Well, that was not to be, but I can't help but wonder, maybe the reason my grandfather said that was because he knew that if he said that, I was going to open my big mouth and say something to her about it, and she would actually get her wish, hearing that she'd be alive for another 5 years. She didn't want to be alive any longer, and I mean, that source, your angels and guides, they're not going to do assisted suicide. It's not one of those things that they want to do. But if you truly, truly ask them, listen, I've lived my life, I'm old, can you maybe not assisted suicide is a bad way of looking at it, but just find a way to make it possible for me to leave the earth. Maybe that me telling her that she'd be alive for another 5 years was the spark plug that she needed. I mean, I'm not saying I'm guilty of wrongful death or anything, but
Gosh,
I
no.
shouldn't look at it that way. But how is it that I have reason to believe Ted Marr was channeling my grandfather. I don't think he was faking that session. There were a few synchronicities in that session that suggested he was. So for him for my grandfather to not, well, you have to understand those entities like him, higher consciousness, they don't follow time like we do. So 5 years is
Sure.
kind of different from them.
Well,
But then again, what do I know? If I told her that and she didn't want to hear that, she wasn't thrilled about it, it would certainly have increased her desire to say, I want to die, I don't want to live 5 more years. And then maybe my grandfather did her a favor by telling me that, and I don't know. But also, it's interesting how a friend of mine named Mary, died of heroin overdose back in October 2015, and
Mm.
I totally mourned her death terribly. She was a fun girl and all. It's a completely different change of attitude with some people. She was only 28, so it's like one of
Oh,
those things that
sorry about that.
don't want to don't have to see them die that early. Completely different attitude from someone who's 99. So,
Yeah.
but I was got a little relief having a psychic channel her in a session. In the past 2 days, I've actually found myself going up to the place where she used to live. There's this place where they do a lot of meditations and called the Being One Center, just a stone's throw from where her house is. And I was there
Mm.
yesterday, and I had to go up there again today because I left my phone there again by accident, past her house both times, and now I find myself talking about her in the
Mm.
show. I don't know if this is just one way of life, just going with the flow, and synchronistically you're bringing up things and going places where you were at a certain times and all. Maybe that is what's happening right now.
Sure.
And yeah, that's very, very
Well,
possible.
it's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I like being in the moment, and I think that's where the connections are coming. And um, interesting what you're saying about that. I remember you mentioning that you left your phone somewhere, but that it's connected to this girl, um, and that maybe there's. So, what were you saying about that? That you have a different way of responding, like the grief reaction is different.
Yeah, to someone who
Mhm.
dies of heroin overdose at 28, to someone who
Mhm.
dies of natural cause-induced pneumonia at age 99 and actually wants to die because she's suffering a lot while staying alive. You're not going to mourn that
Yeah.
person. And
Well, I don't know. I mean, grief is an interesting um, process because I think even though Helene was so, she'd changed so much at the end, and she was so unwell. Um, she didn't want to go. She wanted to stay. She wanted to keep going. She was like, somebody said they saw me living, that I was going to stay alive, and do you believe that? Do you think so? Meanwhile, she had an oxygen tank, and she couldn't go far. I mean, she was really at her last. I was. Her friends were like, "How long is this going to go?" Like, we wanted her to be free of her pain, and she was very medicated, but it's interesting, how when you're in it, like I guess, because she was young, because she was, I mean, not 28, she was 51, but still relatively young, and not done with her life yet. She felt, I think she was so much in her body and her ego that she couldn't align with her soul, her higher purpose of the soul, which knew that there was a bigger job to be done off planet. Um, I mean, that's the interesting thing about what she told me when she was in her better moments, um, not feeling so sick, and she could channel to me. She was saying that she knew she had a job to do, that her guides were telling her she could either do animal husbandry or she could help souls enter the earth and transit and leave the earth. And that these were going to be some things that she would be involved in. And I think that, she could help the planet from beyond just as well and probably better. I mean, so many people are exiting now. So many great people have left. Dolores Cannon, Masaru Emoto,
yeah, well,
well, those
not
are,
only that, but look at the flip side of it. Who's
mhm.
dying on the opposite end? David Rockefeller, Zbigniew Brzezinski, the big
Well,
head honchos in the New World Order field. They're dying. They both died this year as well. And
oh, really?
yeah,
Mm.
and we're wondering, are Henry Kissinger and George Bush Sr. going to be next? They're both like 93 or something like that now. So, I mean, there's
Wow.
secrets as to why they're living so long and all that. But is there any significance behind that? That these good people that you're talking about and the bad people, and I should put the word bad in quotes because like
Yeah,
fear
they're
of
not
evil is
bad.
an
Yeah, we're
illusion.
all
It's
just people.
yeah, and but they're all like passing away in this time, like this year 2017, which some people assert is like like a new beginning of the end of all bad things. Like it's a 1 year, numerologically speaking. And I mean, we had the eclipse, and we got the other eclipse going in 2024. Some people say that that's the significance of that whole thing, the end of the Roman Empire, the modern era that is the United States. I mean, the last time we had an eclipse that went across the 48 continental United States, coast to coast, was 1776, American Revolution. So the eclipse in 1918, that was across America, I think, but it was not like across the 48 states like the one in 1776 was. So yeah, there's some things coming, and when you talk about people dying, people like people like Dolores Cannon, Emoto, and on the flip side, Rockefeller and Brzezinski, you think that these things are happening for a reason. These people are passing away at certain times for a reason, and well, whatever that reason may be, it's there's got to be a reason, because everything happens for a reason. But getting back to what I was talking about earlier about like some people like Helene not really wanting to talk about unpleasant things. It's one of those things that really I really can't help but notice makes people unique in regards to the truth movement and all that. Like take Stuart Swerdlow for an example. Stuart Swerdlow spoke at the Free Your Mind conference in Philadelphia, like suburb of Langhorne, and he at that conference I was at, everybody, when he finished talking in the audience, erupted into thunderous applause, and everybody appreciated what he had to say and loved it. But when Stuart Swerdlow came to Andromeda Council Contactee Tolek's conference in October 2016 in Tucson, Arizona, he caused a lot of bad vibes, saying things like, we don't have a prayer. I think we're in a lot of trouble because my research suggests they're going to stage an alien invasion, and my research suggests that humans are too stupid to wake up to the fact that it's a faked invasion and all that. And he made a lot of people uncomfortable. Tolek was told that he made a lot of people uncomfortable, and Tolek issued a public apology on YouTube. I mean, I told Tolek, I think you kind of went out of your way doing it. You really didn't have to do that. Frankly, I think the only people that owe you an apology or owe any sort of apology are the people in the audience who were unable to suck it up and listen to what Stuart Swerdlow said without getting uncomfortable. But what the interesting thing, however, is at one conference people could erupt into thunderous applause, but at another conference, like 65-70% of the people there get really, really uncomfortable, and it ends up causing bad vibes, which reverberated, unfortunately, throughout much of the rest of the conference. So, and I don't mean to pick on you or anything, but I do remember at the City of Angels conference how you were like, don't talk about the police, don't talk about Fukushima, please shut your mouth about that stuff, I don't want people talking about it. And it's funny how when another speaker came up and mentioned, I want to do a vigil for Fukushima, anybody want to join me? And I'm thinking, why aren't you shutting this guy up? Well, I know I didn't shut him up, you didn't know who was going to say that, it was kind of spontaneous and all that. But it goes without saying, you obviously don't want people like me talking about certain things at certain occasions. And so I guess the question I'm trying to ask for this is, how do you know when it's okay and not okay to talk about stuff like this if your audience is of the awakening truth movement kind of variety?
Well, I think that, when it comes to the agenda of what you're discussing or what I don't remember the exact thing that you're referring to. That was quite a while ago now. But but I know that I was working with Lainey and kind of supporting Helene in her agenda. And I do recall you have a kind of a very booming voice, and I do know that you would bring things up, and maybe I said something to you about that. So I'm sorry.
Don't talk about Fukushima. Don't talk about how to, like that video about how to interact with corrupt cops and all that. That's what you were telling me not to talk about that. And I was like, why do you insist on bothering me about it when you know I've already figured out you don't want me talking about it? I was saying that jokingly and all that. But
that was personally. Yeah. You're like bringing up a personal thing that we discussed. This is not like it wasn't on the radio or anything or in front of a bunch of people. But Andrew, you do have a way about saying things that can be very brash, and I am not afraid to speak up and tell people like you very straight. Don't talk that way, you know what I mean? Like if I have an agenda of what I'm doing and you're bringing up, oh, let's talk about this. Well, I have no problem with holding to the agenda. And you've called into my show numerous times, and I think I've been more than kind to you. I've never shut you down. But I do think that I certainly have a desire to keep it at a higher level of consciousness. I feel like when, and Helene was of the same belief as that. And you might, you have every right to criticize whoever you want, but I think that criticism, when we criticize and judge and put down other people's ways of doing things, we're getting into the polarity mindset. And we're all one. I mean, you might not believe that, but if you've...
I don't believe that. I know that. What makes you think I don't believe that? I know that.
So if you know that we're all one, then there's really no need to point fingers at other people for not being into the same things or wanting to talk about the same things as you. We're all like so different, and it's beautiful. And if we were all the same, it would be so boring. And we're embracing different sides of the polarity. So Stuart Swerdlow is an interesting person to bring up, because I've actually studied a lot of his information, and I've looked at all these things from so many angles. Andrew, I've listened to thousands and thousands of hours of shows and different kinds. And whatever was interesting me at the time, that's what I would listen to more of. And I continue to do the same, and I think everybody is that way. So, what might interest you at first might no longer interest you. I don't listen to David Icke anymore. Not that he doesn't have a great voice and a great presence, and, I admire him, and but he just doesn't draw me in anymore. And the same for Stuart Swerdlow. But if Stuart Swerdlow was talking about, human beings don't know what they're getting themselves in for, we're really screwed, and da-da-da, I can't say that I wouldn't have a negative response myself. I might say, I can't really listen to this. I don't think I would be at that conference in the first place. Because I am more interested in, just as a person, what I'm more drawn to is having higher consciousness,
well, that's what the conference was. That's what this
releasing
was.
programs. I'm not into the alien, going to talk about the aliens that much. I don't know. It's kind of, I would rather see them. Like, if there's going to be alien stuff, let's really do the alien thing, or let's have a movie that's talking about aliens helping people to have a higher consciousness. Or let's talk about how they genetically changed us and what we could have been. I'm so tired of all the information out there being so, like, all the movies are all about, like, death and destruction and killing. Even the movies that are, like, about cool psychic things are all about killing. Like Lucy, and all the movies that are about having a higher consciousness are not about love and about oneness. They're about separation and about killing bad guys. And I feel like the whole alien thing is another bunch of that. It's just like blaming other beings for where we're at. There's no blaming. We're where we're at because it is where we are, and everything's happening and changing, and we all have a job to do, which is to be the best people we can and raise our own consciousness up And I don't know what happened at the conference you're talking about. I'm not defending anybody, Andrew. I think Stuart Swerdlow has a great message. He has really raised consciousness about a lot of things, and I'm fascinated by all the Montauk Project information that he brought forth and what he went through. It's still a fascinating concept, but I think that anybody who has a fear agenda, they have to be careful with how that, I understand you want to help people, but I think that we're just human beings. We react to fear in such bad ways that you have to be careful with how you present information.
No question, but I do believe that the people that do present it, like David Icke and Alex Jones, as long as their intent is to expose it with the intention of putting a stop to the bad guy's agenda, then they are most definitely not giving any power to the bad guys by trying to expose them and find solutions simply because their intent is to stop them.
Sure.
Right.
I've never said that they're helping the bad guys at all.
Right. And
I'm just talking, yeah. But I mean, Alex Jones, he's doing his job.
He's
doing his job. I just can't listen to the guy anymore. It bothers me. Like, it hurts my ears. His voice.
Well, for the most part, I just go to InfoWars and check the news articles just to keep a touch on what's going on in the present day. I really don't listen to his show anymore. Watch him. It's just use his show, use his site as a news source. So yeah, I'm evolving like you are in the sense that I don't have to listen to that stuff anymore. But it's good to keep track of it, just to pay attention to what's going on. But another way I look at this, and I want to ask you if you agree to disagree on this. It always makes for good talk about things to agree or disagree on. When it comes to expanding our consciousness to become the best possible love-based entities we can be, one might make the argument that we're only as strong as our weakest link. Well, what would be the weakest link in that regard? Well, it would be the parts of our reality where the system of domination and control still has a grip on us. So one would think that if we want to ascend higher consciousness, you have to, first expose those parts where they still control us, and then find solutions and ways to stop it so that it's not a weak link anymore. Now, people can agree to disagree on whether that expression, you're only strong as your weakest link. I mean, there's many cases where that is not necessarily true. You can have a weak link and still be incredibly strong because it's so insignificant. But when it comes to parts where the system of domination and control is suppressing our consciousness, is it or is it not in our best interest to try to go at them and go all gung-ho and expose them, stop them? And if so, how do you suggest we go about doing it?
Well, it sounds like you have a lot of ideas about how we should go about doing that, because I am of the belief that the best way to change the world is to focus on yourself. Focus on the only thing that you can change, which is you and your own consciousness. So in order to raise your consciousness to a higher level, the best way that I've found to do that is to meditate and to find blocks within yourself and to find the programs that are limiting beliefs, that are holding people back. We walk through our lives pretty much on default, sort of run by a mind map that was created through experience. And we're sort of locked into a certain way of being. And I think that so many people are completely unconscious to just how programmed they are. And it can really make it hard to have a good life. And so many people are programmed not only through their family and through school and through the institutions and culture and society, but to a large degree through the media. And what used to be television used to have a large hold on the consciousness of mass consciousness. I think now people are pulling away from television, but they're very into, as we know, their phones, computer, mostly the phones now. It's the mobile world. Um, and I think that we are getting very programmed by even, watching YouTube videos or watching anything, even though we don't have commercials anymore. We're getting programmed by everything we take in. And that's why I was saying I was upset about the movies that we have, because we have so many films that are not love-based, that are really Armageddon-focused and talking about zombies and like looking at otherworldly things, but the scariest parts of it. Let's focus on people sucking each other's blood, so we'll focus on these vampires. And, we could look at the deeper aspects of anything you watch. And I actually like vampire things. I think they're interesting. Zombies do not interest me. What I really hate is any kinds of the things with a lot of guns, war, killing, and stuff about Armageddon, of other worlds trying to kill us and aliens getting us. I mean, really, I just find it to be so distasteful and so untrue. And so I really don't watch that many movies that are like that. I try to keep myself away from pop culture. I do have a child, and so she is a little more into pop culture than me, and yet I try to expose her to the realities of it, and try to help her not to be blinded by her programming, because we all have to take on programming in order to live in this world. So I do believe that we can help change the world and expose the realities that exist, expose the matrix for what it is. But I think that if we go out there and try and make a change in the world, and we haven't dealt with our own inner demons, our own programming that's running our lives, then we're doing ourselves and the world a disservice.
Absolutely.
So,
And
yeah.
I think there is ways to go about that. I mean, I've been taking Aikido and now Tai Chi and yoga and doing all sorts of things to enhance my destiny tuning ability so that the law of attraction can manifest better. I mean, there's The Secret, the documentary The Secret. One flaw that many
Mhm.
people assert about it was that it was a little too new agey, not really talking about the whole destiny tuning factor, about how if you have subconscious blocks in you that allow for the law of attraction to manifest, then you got to find a way to get rid of those blocks, and you do that through destiny tuning. One of the basic examples is if you have something that prevents you from believing that money is that makes you think money is bad, like your parents argued about money all the time, that implanted a money is bad motion in your mind. There are like audios and such you can listen to that'll get rid of those subconscious blocks, which will allow you to manifest money through the law of attraction better. So yes, I know what it's like. I've been doing things like that, and I do think I've been seeing positive results from a law of attraction standpoint, and also the yoga, the Tai Chi, and the Aikido. It's definitely helped me from a standpoint of being one with the Force, to use a Star Wars analogy. So I, and of
Cool.
course you, are living examples that doing things like this will definitely work out in the long run. And
Mhm.
2017 is what many believe, well, a big important starting point. Well, any year can be a starting point, but with it being a 1 year, like numerologically speaking, a 1 year, it's a year where we're starting off with realizing this and realizing that we have the ability to do a lot of significant and important things. And I remember Franco De Nicola in my interview with him, and I do really mean to get him on my show again for maybe just an hour or so to talk about this,
Mhm.
because I mean, you know me, I don't like to have the same guest on twice, but I've kind of evolved from that. That was only for
Oh,
a
good
blog
for
talk.
you.
Yeah, kind of a blog. Well, you say good for me. Isn't it good to get a different guest on every week? Well, I don't know.
I
Sometimes,
remember you saying that to Franco, that you were
yeah.
not going to double dip. So to hear you saying that you want to get
Well,
him on your show again
in my
is
yes.
making me smile because it's kind of funny.
Some
Yeah.
guests have things that they can say on their plate and serve on their plate that would make them worthy and deserving of having maybe a 1 hour special to come on again. And Franco, because of those things he said in my interview with him, would be one of those guys. He did say that this was 3 years ago when he said this, that 2017 would be the year when our souls would resonate with 5D consciousness. And I don't think he
Mhm.
elaborated too much on that. And you and I were both not at his recent event in Canada that he held. I was at a campground event in about 100 miles north of Baltimore, and you were, I don't know
I
where you,
listened.
yeah, and
I was with the live stream
the live
of
stream.
the show. 'Cause, yeah, because
Okay,
I couldn't attend. I just got back from the eclipse, so we couldn't go.
right.
But yeah, I do. I mean, I do know what he was talking about was really trying to, him and James Fu, trying to. It's like they're saying you got to get rid of these programs. It's time, and we're helping you get rid of them. And you got to be in touch with the 5D consciousness. I mean, I think we were supposed to be further along now, but things have gone fast since 2017 started. And you're right with the one. I mean, I don't know that much about numerology, um, but I feel like something has changed. 2017, it seems like it's going faster. 2016 was kind of slow and heavy, and I I do remember that was that was a few years ago when Franco was on your show, and it's been a while since I've had regular shows with Franco. I was doing more regular things with him for a while. Um, I just always find that Franco's so helpful to me because I listen to him. It just life just makes sense when he talks, and I think of the work that he's done and continues to do is really on, entering into people's consciousness and giving them another option. I mean, when he talks about having entered into the bodies and consciousness of like thousands of people for a time, he can do that, and he can kind of flip a switch or give another option of doing something differently. And I think that we can all affect each other. I mean, what he said over the weekend, in that weekend retreat, which was not that long ago. He said that his guides are now. He said to them, you guys have given me a big job to do. I'm supposed to work on the planet here, and I'm only one person, and my body's not doing too well. Franco's had a lot of problems with his body in the last couple of years. And he said, how am I supposed to do this all by myself? I might be running out of time. And he's like, I got to invite other people in. And so now he's like, so I'm not keeping this to myself anymore. I need more people to work with me, and I need you to bring yourselves up. So he really wants to help people. I mean, he made time for me last week. I just couldn't even speak with him. I didn't have the time. I'm hoping I'm going to talk to him this week. He's been working with me, just personally to try and help me to release the last of my programming, because a lot of my stuff's been coming up big time. So, I think that we are, if stuff is coming up for people, it's great because it's there for a reason. Like you said, everything happens for a reason. And when we're triggered by people, we should be thankful in a way. I mean, there's people that really bug me, people in my life, people actually in my family, and I should be thankful to them because without them bugging me and triggering me, I wouldn't know that I had that program.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. I just wanted to ask you. I do seem to recall maybe on at least two occasions whenever you had your birthday around. Would I be correct in assuming that Edward Snowden ruined your birthday by releasing that stuff on the same day as your birthday. I believe it was on the same day that when
Mm.
he did that data dump was the same day as your birthday, and by doing that, he must have taken all the attention away from you, and everybody was
What do you
focusing on that. Don't
What do you mean? What? Who's Edward?
Edward
I
Snowden.
mean.
Edward Snowden, the guy who released the NSA surveillance system, spying on the whole world.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
right.
I think he released all that on the same day that is your birthday, because I do recall.
June 5th. Cool.
No, your birthday's June 5th.
Yeah. What
Maybe
was the day that he released it?
I thought it was sometime in May. Or maybe
Uh,
I don't know. Maybe I'm confused. I could have sworn it was
it's
you
okay.
that it was you that I sent a message. Your birthday's the same day as the anniversary of the Snowden data dump. I wonder what significance of that is. Well, I don't know. I mean, Donald Trump
It could
kind of
have
ruined
been.
my 31st birthday firing those missiles on Syria because everybody was that was April 7th. Everybody was talking about that and obsessing about that, and that diverted attention from my birthday for a little bit. My father's
You,
birthday and was ruined. His November 25th, same as Michelle Walling. His birthday was ruined on when JFK was assassinated back in '63. That diverted all attention from that. But uh,
oh.
yeah, but
So you only had you're only 31 years old?
yeah,
You're just a young pup.
yeah. Some people thought I'm
Just
a lot older than I am listening to me talk, but no, only 31. And
you're just a young lad. That's good. That's good. I mean, I'm sorry to hear that Donald Trump ruined your birthday.
he was probably
Um,
blackmailed. But anyhow, that's another story. So
so anyway, I don't know if I answered your question properly, but
well,
I
that
mean, like,
wasn't a question. I was
yeah.
just pointing out how
Hmm.
I thought your birthday was the same day that Snowden did the data dump release, and that was
Oh,
going to be an anniversary kind of
yeah.
thing every year. Like, oh, your birthday is an anniversary of the Snowden data dump. So I don't know, maybe
I don't
whatever.
even know that much about that, so it doesn't
Okay,
really matter to
all right,
me. But thank you.
all
Thank
right.
you for your concern.
Yeah. Also, you mentioned earlier you like to travel. Well, traveling
Hmm.
for me, it's kind of unique. I personally don't believe in taking vacations. I don't. I believe the only time worth traveling is if you're on some sort of a mission, some sort of you're going somewhere to get something done. Now, some people may, who know what I'm about to do, know that I'm going to be going to Bermuda for a week, the week of September 11th, with my parents. They go there about 3 or 4 times a year because they're part of a lottery system where they're selected between May and November for 3 or 4 weeks. And if I give them, well, they agreed $200 this year. They're telling me you got to give us $300 next year, and I'm sure they're going to up the price the year after that if I want to go with them. That I can go with them, but I personally don't see this as a vacation. Even though Bermuda is an island paradise, I see it more as a past life pilgrimage because as that one of the speakers at the City of Angels Los Angeles conference said, all of you who are at this conference, you are here because you had a past life in Atlantis, and I did, and I know from Ted Marr, who was channeling this very intelligent entity named Ambassador Terrellian, that Ted Marr and we worked together in Atlantis, owned some sort of a shop together, and I don't know if that's the only life I had, but yeah, that's a fact. I did have a past life in Atlantis, and when I go to Bermuda, which is just like Hawaii and the Polynesian Islands are remnants of Lemuria, Bermuda is a remnant of Atlantis that did not go into the ocean. And when I go there, I intend to treat it not as a vacation, but as a past life pilgrimage. I mean, last year I was on the beach and I told the lifeguards, give me a garbage bag so I could pick up litter here. And they're all like, excuse me, sir, you're on vacation. Have a good time. And I was like, shut up, give me the garbage bag. I want to do something good for everybody and make myself useful. I mean, I had also taken a caffeine pill shortly there beforehand, so I was kind of like really interested in doing some work or something. So they're like, all right, here's a garbage bag, and I cleaned the whole beach, and boy, they sure were glad they gave that to me. They were like, thank you very much, sir. We really appreciate it. And I'm probably going to do the same thing again when I go there, and I'll do it on the go all throughout the Bermudan cities of Hamilton and St. George, and pick up litter and do a lot of walking around. And people would
Mm.
tell me, aren't you on vacation? Relax. No, I'm on a past life pilgrimage. That's what it is. And all vacations for me, they're not vacations, they're pilgrimages. But you You say you think it's important to travel for the sake of raising consciousness. Do you think I am maybe making a little bit of a mistake by not wanting to take vacations? Do you think maybe, hey, Andrew, every so often you should take a, strictly speaking, a vacation and not always go on
Mm.
missions all the time? What do you say?
um, no, I think you should do whatever you feel called to do. Um, Go if you feel that you should call it a mission and have it, with the focus that focus that's great. I mean, um, I think that the traveling that I did, certainly when I went to Europe, I wouldn't call that a vacation. It was certainly my own pilgrimage. Um, it was like, gosh, you had cancer at 29, and you're working with people and helping people all the time. What are you doing with your life? You have to live your life and live your own life and stop telling other people to follow their dreams. You have to follow your own dream. So I was following a dream, and it is part of my thing. So traveling opened me up to a part of myself I didn't even know was there. So to me, traveling is not about vacation. Vacation is usually pain in the ass time, difficult. I don't like vacations are exhausted from. Um, so, to me, the word vacation, I don't even, usually is like time you have to go with your family and off of work a little bit. Yeah, I'm not really so focused on that as a way to, I think that whatever you want to do, Andrew, or anybody listening to this show, um, you have to do what's right for you. And if you feel like you have to make yourself go somewhere and just have fun, then do that. But I mean, I I do my own way of traveling. My way of traveling might be more relaxing than yours, but I pick up garbage too, just to let you know. I don't ask anybody else for the bags. I like the way you did it. I usually bring my own bags. My daughter and I, we pick up garbage. I've been doing it since I was young. Wherever I go hiking or to the beach or the park across the street that I live on, if everybody just picked up garbage wherever they went, wouldn't the world be so much cleaner of a place? So thank you for picking up the garbage, Andrew, because I think that's great. And I love pilgrimages personally. And one of a story that really inspired me, um, I think I listened to the audio version or read it, but it was Shirley MacLaine. She had written a lot of books back in the 70s and 80s on her psychic experiences and her experiences with reincarnation and past life and regressions, and then she found out about a place called the Camino in Spain, which is a pilgrimage, a road that pilgrims take. They hike, backpack through to northern Spain, I believe, and the things she experienced when she was there were so life-changing and so cool. And I think that was a part of why I wanted to go to Europe. I just kind of found Italy. Italy found me, sort of. So for me, that was a place that called to me and keeps calling back.
Did
And
you
I
go
don't
to the
know what it is.
Coliseum? Did you go to the Coliseum?
Of course,
Did you hear any
yeah.
ghosts and spirits there while you were there? Did you, like they say, you can hear the wailing sounds of the tortured slaves being killed at the
Yeah.
Coliseum? Did you hear that?
It was
Or
not great. I don't. I'm more of a feeler of energy.
mhm.
Like my friend Helene was more. She would hear things. She was auditory and visual, but I would feel things. So I just knew that I didn't really like Rome very much. I did not have a good feeling in Rome, and that's where the Colosseum is. So El Coliseo. Um, the energy in Rome is, as you could imagine, heavy, dense.
Well, duh, the Vatican's
Romans,
there.
the Vatican, and going to the Vatican, geez, Jesus Christ, I can't kidding. But I mean, Italy is steeped in a lot of heavy energy, but especially Rome is. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan. I actually had a chance to live there. I was offered a job the American School of Rome as an English teacher, a creative writing teacher, which would have been great experience for me, but I didn't want to live in it. I just felt like I couldn't live there. So I don't really, for me, unfortunately, I never have seen ghosts or heard them. I have been around people who attract ghosts, and I have seen lights flicker. But I don't know, for some reason, that's not, I would love to have more intense psychic visions, and to do, just to have more ways of being able to see things with my third eye. You know, I've been trying for years to get rid of all the fluoride in my system, to decalcify my pineal gland. I'm not sure if it's completely worked, or if I need to maybe release more programs in order to access that.
Well, remember what happened at the City of Angels conference when I took out the bottle of iodine and I said, why don't I give this to everybody to protect everybody from Fukushima radiation? And I don't remember if it was you, Helene, or someone said, well, Andrew, we love you for what you're doing, but you're going to make people uncomfortable, so please don't do that. And, well, I mean, now that I bring that up, why don't you order some iodine from, and well, actually, probably the best iodine of all is, hey, I know you're not really cool with Alex Jones and all, but the Survival Shield X2 crystalline iodine, which is of a crystalline variety, that may be the best one possible out there that you can get for the sake of getting fluoride out of your system and all kinds of other things that aren't in your body's best interest. So is that something you may want to consider looking into, or is that not your cup of tea?
No, I never said that it wasn't good to protect yourself from radiation. But I think that was, maybe you were just blurting out something in the middle of another talk. I mean, you keep bringing stuff up. I'm sorry if we hurt your feelings.
You didn't hurt my feelings.
At that time,
I was kind of expecting this to happen because, yes, but it's okay. Okay.
But I'm totally for. I mean, I had thyroid cancer, which is caused by radiation. So I certainly would be somebody who would, I feel like it's really hard to get away from. I mean, I think we can take things, but, and I'm like really into organics and natural, and I use a lot of supplements. So anything that you want to, I mean, if you could send me the link with the information for that, or if you want to provide, how would people find that? I mean,
just
and
go
what
to
does that do?
Infowars.com, click on the store, go to the Infowars Life tab, and there's two Survival Shield iodines. There's the X2 one, which is has a yellowish bottle, and then there's the regular Survival Shield Nascent Iodine. I would certainly recommend the X2 one because it has a crystalline variety, and I know you, being metaphysical and all, you're all about crystals. Well, I even spoke to some health expert who I had on my show, and I told her I take this, and she was like, well, you make a wise decision in spending a little extra money on the crystal kind of iodine, because that gives it a lot more oomph, a lot more power to do that. And I mean, all those people who say anything from Alex Jones cannot be trusted. No, this is completely different. This is has nothing to do with him, really. It's just he's just selling this product, and he wouldn't be, if you say he's just doing it for the money, you wouldn't be saying that unless you couldn't think of any other reason why he's doing it. So let people believe.
Yeah,
what
no,
they want.
I know he wants to help the planet. But what does that do? The iodine, what does that do for you?
Oh, clear radiation out of you, and general cleansing and all.
Oh.
Yeah, very good for the thyroid. Someone like you had thyroid cancer would definitely benefit from that, I believe. So, just something you may want to look into. But
okay.
Speaking of health, I wanted to ask you about general dietary and eating habits. I remember when you and I were at Franco's healing in Canada in 2016. We were both there, and he served vegetarian meals to everybody, and I am not vegetarian. I will say, though, my meat eating habits and general animal product eating habits have gone down. I expect, though, as time goes on for the rest of my life, like there's that graph in math that gets, I think it's called a hyperbole, that gets closer and closer and closer to zero but never actually reaches zero. That's what I expect my meat eating habits to, and animal product eating habits, to go closer and closer to zero but never actually reach zero, because, well, you just got to get a little bit of meat and eggs and cheese and all that stuff. I just feel like got to get that every so often, and every so often will be less often, but never got rid of entirely. But I will
Mhm.
say I loved the vegetarian food. It was delicious. And when it comes to eating animal products, do you have anything that you want to say about it? Because some people like Santos Bonacci. I mean, he's gone off his marbles with the whole flat Earth thing. But anyhow, that's beside the point. He's actually said some other really unpleasant things, like, I feel really sorry for people who eat meat. They're totally screwed. Well, I don't think totally screwed is a good way of
Hmm.
looking at it. So, do you have any general comments
Well,
about it?
just as an aside, I'd be interested in talking about flat Earth because that is quite fascinating.
Okay,
How
we can
people
do
are
that.
believing in that. But just to get back to, because now I'm almost forgetting the question,
Yeah,
um, meat or not to eat
and
meat.
animal products
So
in general. Yeah.
I am presently a sort of a vegetarian. Um, I only eat fish. If I'm going to eat any kind of meat, it's only fish. And it's very rare that I eat fish, maybe once a week or less.
That's the kind of meat
Um,
that Santos Bonacci says is the worst kind of meat you can eat. He even said the ancient Egyptians thought that fish was from another dimension, so they didn't eat it. But
cool.
make of that whatever you will.
Wow. Well, I have chosen to, I used to eat meat, and when I was eating chicken or beef, it was trying to get organic or free range or, bison or this, and that, very, trying to be very conscious and eating the right kinds. And 3 years ago, I met my fiance, James, who was vegetarian for over 30 years. And I just felt like I had been wanting to eat less chicken at the time because I felt like the way that most chicken was treated, most chickens were treated, was very horribly and very inhumane. And when we're going out to restaurants, that's when I would eat the most chicken. And it was probably the lowest quality. And I just felt like the energy of the animal that I was taking in was not of a good quality. I felt bad for the animals. And unless it was a very ethically raised animal, I didn't feel right about eating it. So it was easy for me to let go of that when I met James. He didn't require it, but I just said, I'm not going to cook a hamburger in your house. You're a vegetarian. I'm not going to eat meat around you. And it was easy for me to let go. At first it was kind of hard, but it spoke to me. I still sometimes think I'll go back to eating meat, but I have no hard and fast rules about anything. I do feel like I believe what Franco says. I'll just think about what Franco says about eating, that we are cut out to be fruitarians first and foremost, and that we can live on light. And I know that you were doing the sun gazing, and sun gazing can be giving us nutrients. I don't think we need so much food. I think as human beings, we give ourselves maybe too much food, and it can weigh you down. And the more food that you bring into your system, the harder it is to get the messages from spirit. And I think that meat is a dense, it's just a dense quality food. So the more meat that you eat, sure, perhaps it could cloud your vision or make you less able to connect with your spirit guides or something. But and then you got to think about the energy of the animal that you're taking in. But some people, they take in the energy of the meat to kind of transmute the negativity and help the trauma that cow went through and was killed. They'll eat the meat to kind of, with the higher consciousness, to change the energy for that animal. So, I mean, I don't think there's any hard, fast rules. You can eat what you want and still be the highest spirituality. You
Well
know, Dalai
said.
Lama eats pork when he has to.
Right. You said you wanted to talk about flat Earth. Normally, I don't talk about flat Earth on this show unless I'm trying to help make sense of how it's possible that the flat Earthers could be wrong, even though they seem to present empirical evidence that shows that they are right. Well, the general explanation for that is that they are showing empirical evidence for a two-dimensional thing, which is actually supposed to be a three-dimensional construct. So they're failing to take into account the whole picture. That's what people like Brad Johnson, who channels Adronis, have tried to explain and make sense of the whole thing. I don't know if you heard, I did have the privilege of debating the poster boy of the flat Earth theory. Santos Bonacci, of course, is who I'm referring to when I say that. He
Mm.
was a guest on my show, and I knew I had to debate him about it. So 2 days before the show, it wasn't until 2 days before the show when I found out he was a flat Earther until I looked on his Facebook page and saw all the posts about it, and I realized, okay, I'm gonna have to debate him. So I, like a college student cramming for a test, I spent those 2 days beforehand cramming, getting information about flat Earth to debate him. And I must say, my listeners were not too impressed with what he had to say. And what I was not impressed with was, I told him, you can kill two birds with one stone by uploading our interview to your YouTube channel, and I'll upload it to mine. And he said, thank you. Well, he did upload it, but then a couple days later, I checked the interview to see how many. I knew he'd get more views than I would because he's obviously more popular than me. Not to put me down or
Hmm.
anything, but I checked it out and I saw that the video was a lot shorter. It was like watered down by like 50 minutes or so, and I'm like, what's going on here? And I saw the title was changed to Flat Earth Debate on Nature of Reality Radio, and well, that pissed me off a lot because there was a lot of stuff in that interview that we talked about that had nothing to do with flat Earth, that even people who don't believe in flat Earth could have find useful, and he decided to chop all that off and just leave all the flat Earth stuff on. Well, that just goes to show you that a lot of people that talk about flat Earth can become so obsessed about it and that they lose touch with reality and focus on it like it's the Holy Grail. And to some degree, Santos has done just that. And well, you seem interested to want to talk about it. I hope it
Yeah.
hasn't driven you off the edge like it has him. But is there anything you want to say about it?
No, I mean, gosh, I'm not so passionate about it as Santos or even you. Um, I know I actually just bring it up as an aside. Like, yeah, I'm amazed that people are believing that the Earth is flat. I, I just, I can't understand how they can believe it. But I did not research it like you did. You know, I guess because I just go, I tune into his energy, and as much as I have liked Santos Bonacci for certain things. Um, Gosh, was it a few months ago? There was something he put up. There was like some apology he put up on Facebook,
Well, he did put a
and
message on Facebook saying he was doing heavy peer pressure. Like,
yeah.
in high school they say, "Hey, smoke a joint, or I'm not going to be your friend anymore. You got to do marijuana to be friends with us." Well, he was basically saying, "Be a flat Earth believer, or I'm not your friend anymore." And he's made good on his thread. And on one person I know of, whose name I'm not willing to divulge, did say that he did lose Santos as a friend because he did not want to believe in flat Earth. So Santos has made good on his heavy peer pressure threats. Although maybe you say he's apologized. Has he perhaps realized he's gone over
He
the?
was. I don't know. I read something. Well, he is a quote unquote friend of mine on Facebook, although we've never personally spoken or written to each other. I don't think he knows of me. Just like I don't, I know of him. I'm friends with Stuart Swerdlow too, but he had some comment out about, oh, I made a mistake. I, let my ego get the best of me, da, da, da. And I thought, well, that's kind of cool that he's admitting that he has an issue to work through. And then I was like, oh, he's really into the flat earth? Oh, that's an, I didn't let myself get into it because I just think it's kind of, I don't want to be judgmental. but I don't understand how they can believe it's flat anymore. Like, come on. You can see that the Earth is round from space. Are they saying that's all fake? I mean, is that what it is? They're just saying it's
Well,
all
they say
manufactured?
NASA never a straight answer. They are giving fake pictures and all that. That's the general argument there, that every picture you see from space is a bogus picture. Oh, every picture? I think that's a huge
And
stretch.
what are we, just a big flat plane? We're on like a big flat
As the
plane.
theory
Is there
goes,
one side?
yeah, as the
Yeah.
theory goes, the Earth is flat. The continent of Antarctica is ring-shaped, circling the entire outer part of the Earth, and the sun is only a few thousand miles above us. The moon is also a few thousand miles above us, and the stars are not comprised of what we're led to believe they are. And I don't know. And also the there's below the Earth. He claims that the ETs, the flat earthers and scientists who claim that the ETs come from not the stars, but like worlds beneath the surface of the flat Earth, like several different layers. And I'm not buying it for one bit,
Oh,
but that's what
totally different.
yes.
So it's completely different from the people who believe in the Middle Earth people.
You mean
Like
the Hollow Earth?
Hollow Earth.
Yeah, Hollow Earth. Yeah.
Hollow Earth is completely different, you know what I mean? So, like,
Well,
that's fascinating
it's
to me
interesting because
too.
in my debate with him, I talked about how Sheldon Neidl, a prominent ET contactee, he gets his information from higher dimensional ET contacts who have given him a diagram of a high level consciousness version of Hollow Earth, which has holes at both the north and south pole, and like a star in the center of the Earth, which is the core, which is not made of iron, but just like a 4D star, and there's like no mantle, no lava, no magma in the mantle. It's all like empty space, and
Mm.
the beings are all comprised in there. And I told him, well, that flies in the face of your flat Earth model, which says that the continent of Antarctica is a ring-shaped continent that circles the outer part of the circular flat Earth. And well, I don't remember exactly what he said, but my argument was, but the ET contactees out there, like not just Sheldon Knight, but also Alex Collier and such, their ET
Mhm.
contacts are telling them, they're giving them evidence that the Earth is round. So what do you have to say to that? And I don't know. You'll have to check it out. Check it out. But I
Yeah.
don't think anything is going to
Okay.
phase him, no matter what. But aside from that, we've only got like maybe about 9 or 8 minutes left before I want to call it, and I leave the show for
Oh, you're
2 hours
right.
for the
It's
yeah.
11:02. Look
Leave
at
it,
that.
for the sake of all the people who have lousy attention spans, just leave it to 2 hours. So I want to talk about some of the things you specialize in. Reiki.
Okay.
You do specialize in Reiki, and the big question I always talk about when I talk with people who do Reiki is how much practice. I mean, anybody say we all have the ability to do Reiki. We're all infinite consciousness. We can all do
Mhm.
it. Well, yeah, but that's easier said than done. Certain things you got to practice, like Jedi Knights in
Mhm.
Star Wars, and also on the flip side, Sith Lords. They didn't become Jedi Knights and Sith Lords because they realized, oh, I have the ability to do this because I'm infinite. No, it took practice. And
That's
one would
true.
think the same
Mhm.
thing is going to be true with Reiki. Okay, so how do you know how much practice you're going to need? Can you maybe give a nice answer to that people can resonate with?
Okay. Sure. I mean, I think everything takes consistency and doing it on a regular basis to get into your cells, to get into your muscles, your memory of your body, because we're all working from the mantle of our bodies as our vehicle here on Earth, right? So, yeah, I think it's great to learn from a good teacher. I learned from a very strict teacher. I actually didn't really like my teacher personally. I thought she was very uptight. um, but I think she did a great job of teaching me Reiki. I'm very clear about saying I'm an advanced Reiki practitioner. I do not say I'm a Reiki master because I have not received my Reiki master. I went through 9 months of training of Reiki and still don't have my Reiki master. So I'm a purist. If I could finish my Reiki master easily in a weekend, or I could do an online course and get it. But the problem is, I think a lot of people who do Reiki, I mean, I don't even know if it's a problem, but, you just got to be maybe cautious about doing a short thing, because some people do a Reiki master in a weekend or a couple of weekends, and then they say they're a Reiki master, and then they can train people and they could do this. And I think that for those who are students who are wanting to learn, just maybe start out with a Reiki circle and find people that you like and train with them, and find a teacher that you feel aligned with. Now, even though my teacher was kind of uptight, I feel like I learned so well from her the traditional Reiki methods, the Usui method, Japanese method of Reiki, and I feel like I have a great foundation. And from that, you can mix in your own interests and your own kinds of healing, and that's what I have done. So I think we all have healing energy as human beings, as beings on the earth. We're all energetic, and why not channel the energy for the best of all involved? So that's what learning about healing is, and Reiki is one specific type of healing. But as you know, there's many types of energetic healing available, and I would recommend any and all of them to everyone, whatever you feel pulled to. I'm actually not so focused on Reiki as much as I used to be, but what feels right to me in the moment. So, like I said, I use a lot of different healing modalities, and kind of just make them my own. And Reiki was made by somebody too. So, these are all just ideas that people have come to an agreement on and practiced over and over again. And just like you do, like Aikido or Tai Chi, and, these are ways of channeling energy and having reverence and having a kind of ritual and, making space, showing up for yourself, and, yoga as well. So I think that whatever you practice on a regular basis is perfect. And right now, what I'm putting more time into is just self-reflection and meditation and exercise. I do focused exercise, working out on a regular basis, and strengthening my body, lifting weights, and trying and working out with a trainer that's very focused in the martial arts and Aikido, and working with energy and focus. Because I do believe that if we have a very good focus when we're using our bodies, we can create a better result. And the same goes for our healing. So, I would suggest to anybody to learn as much as you can about whatever you're interested in, and know that you definitely have innate healing ability in your body, whether you're channeling it or not. Your body is working to heal you all the time. We are in a state of perfect health, and I believe that if you can align yourself with others that are on the same frequency as you, or wanting good things for others and into alternative health and healing, then it's all the better for you. And just keep exposing yourself to things that feel right for you, that make you feel better about yourself and about your place on the earth. And keep being connected to cool people, because it keeps us all, it gives us the energy that we need. So, I would say if you're into healing, go get a healing from somebody, or go to a healing circle, or listen to videos about things, or do clearings. There's so much that we can do to energetically cleanse and heal ourselves and others. It's really quite wonderful.
Yes, and all right, maybe one more question. We'll call it a night. Dream
Okay.
work. You do a lot of stuff with. There's a tab here dealing with dream work, dream analysis, and all that.
Mhm.
I do keep a dream journal. But I just write down my dreams that I remember. A few times I forget the dream, and I think, oh, well, what was the dream? I can't remember. Maybe I didn't have one. And then later on in the day, I'm just thinking random stuff, and then I think something, and then I realize, oh, this is dream that I just had this past night. Why didn't I remember when I woke up? And well, then I forget about it later on. But I mean, if you're keeping a dream journal, I mean, is there a? I've never actually gone back yet. Anyway, I don't remember when I started doing it. But is there like a certain time period where you're supposed to look back in your dream journal and read over everything that you've written to try to analyze a thing and make sense of it? And are there any other ways to like do dream work like you do? What kind of dream work do you do? Any advice for people like me that want to try to make sense of the dream world and how it can benefit us?
Sure. That's a very good question, Andrew. Um, well, I mean, just in terms of my own dream analysis background, I'm really into Jungian, working with the collective unconscious, and um, I've had a lot of my training as a therapist in dream analysis. So kind of coming from that background of psychology, I work with people. If I were to ask you a question, like say you had a dream and you remembered it and you told me about the dream, then I would ask you, well, what was your feeling in the dream? How did you feel? And just kind of go from there, like sort of break it down. And what did you notice? And what were the colors? And sort of ask more questions. So like if you're doing it yourself and you actually have the wherewithal to write down your dreams, good for you. Having a book next to your bed, a journal or even pages with a pen is a great way to do it. And as soon as you wake up to write, even before you start thinking, that's really the best way to remember your dreams. And another way to remember your dreams is to ask your guides before you go to sleep to please help you to remember your dreams. Or some people work with the archangels. Archangel Michael is really good at helping you with your dreams, helping you to remember your dreams. So once you can remember your dreams and share them with people or just share them with the page, then certainly, I mean, I think it's best to do it right away, not to like let it linger, but you have the dream, then you go back to it quickly and look at it. And you could certainly, there's so many different books out there about dream analysis that you can get. And the way that I shop for books, that kind of book is, I used to go to bookstores and just kind of follow what felt right for me and find a book. Even in the library, the same thing. But now I do most of my looking for books online. And so there's so much information online that you can just do a search on Google for certain animal totems. What are the meanings of those? And there's so many ways that your subconscious is speaking to you. I believe that dreams are a way for us to process the things that happen that we can't process consciously. So I think some of it is just sort of, doing the work of deprogramming and releasing that we're not doing in our conscious waking life. And there's also another realm of sending messages to us. Then there's the astral plane, which people can unfortunately get stuck in and have dreams of a kind of a base, lower energetic quality, and sometimes very negative ones or nightmares. There's so many different kinds of dreams, and I think that if you're having the dreams, it's great if you can write them down or find somebody that you can talk to. If people want to reach out to me and ask me any questions about dreams, I'd love to help you with them, just for my own interest and your interest. So, like, if anybody wants to get in touch with me, please don't hesitate to reach out and message me on Facebook, Claudia Helmke Miller, or you can also send me an email, claudiahelmkemiller@gmail.com. And next time I have I'd been thinking, I have done a show with Lainey, and we were always talking about me doing a dream analysis show, having people call in with their dreams. But I really am a believer in helping people do the work themselves. So I'm glad that you asked the question the way you did, because Um, we all have the ability to do all this stuff ourselves, but like let's use each other, and wherever some of us are stronger than others, I think it's very good to reach out to those who are better at things than we are. We don't all have to reinvent the wheel. So I have nobody in specific that I would recommend for dream analysis, but I love Carl Jung, and his work with the collective unconscious is fascinating. So, that's pretty much it for my ideas about dream analysis, unless you had a specific question.
I do have a thing called the Dream Interpreter, which I believe I downloaded from numerologist.org. A lot of things, if you see this in a dream, this is what it means. But I remember reading over that, I'm thinking, where in the hell are you getting the idea that this is what this has to mean if you see in the dream? Is it really set in stone? That, I mean, I could go over the list here, but we're kind of like out of time now. So, but maybe I'll send you like a link of that, and you can look at that and see, like, maybe they're off their hinges, suggesting that this, when you see this in a dream, this is what it means, because it seems like kind of hard to believe that one thing, when you see it like that, would only mean one specific thing.
Right, and you know what? That's a really good point. I know we're out of time, but that's why when I work with people on their dreams, I always ask them what they think and feel. Well, what is that? How does that feel to you? And what do you think the meaning is? Because ultimately, it's all subjective. It's a message from our own individual subconscious to us. Unless it's a message from beyond, from spirit, from a dead loved one, it is usually just your own subconscious speaking to you. So why should you even use anybody else's reference?
That's a very good point.
Yeah.
And well, loved having you on. By the way, I just realized why I wanted to do this interview at 6 and not 9. It's because Kerry Samuels of numerologist.org, she's one of their prominent members. She was doing a full moon activation tonight with the archangels at 9, and because I did the show with you, I missed that, but that's okay, because there's but that's fine, because she always does a replay. And I remember in your interviews with Franco De Nicola and Matthew Bueno, they always said, don't worry if you didn't listen to this live, because time is an illusion. Anybody can always listen to these at a later time, and they'll get all the energies just the same. Well, I don't know, just the same. There is the expression, energy flows where attention goes, and if that's true, then there's no question that many people doing it at the same time can have a major effect. But still, the effects that you want to generate from the healing and all that from the archangel, because the archangels perceive space and time as an illusion, I can definitely do that at a later time. And even though it's going to be a little past the full moon, that's okay. The full moon energies do last for a little while. The exact time of the full moon was actually at 3:04 a.m. I'm looking at sunrisesunset.com website, 3:04 a.m. This past night. So we're already almost 24 hours past that, but I guess that would mean that this is the night of the full moon and not last night. I don't know how it works, but
well, it's the day. It is the day of the full moon. So
well,
I think that's so cool.
Isn't it day of the new moon at night of the full moon? Day of new moon, night of full moon. I think that's what.
I don't know. I thought it was the full moon. But I thought the full moon and the new moon are different. But yeah, I have to say that I think that you doing a show at the same time is fulfilling your life purpose.
Yeah. And
so it's all energetic, and it's beautiful, and thanks for rolling with the punches and being able to make this happen. And I look forward to hearing it when you put it up on YouTube.
I will, and I'll make sure I put it up before I go to Bermuda. No question about that.
Great. Well, thanks for doing all the work that you're doing to help raise consciousness, and I really appreciate your perspective, and I know we haven't always seen eye to eye on things, and I'm happy to be able to finally come on your show, and I appreciate you making a space for me and your listeners. It's an honor, and just have a lot of love and respect for you and for everybody listening. So thanks so much for bringing me on.
CJ, whatever you want to be called.
Okay.
All right. Take care now.
All right.
Love you very much.
Thanks, Andrew. Take care. Much love.
Namaste.
Bye.
Bye.